Ladies and gentlemen,
We are
welcome
live.
to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast Rum Shot Diaries edition. We are live. We're in the house. It's a
Friday night. The rum is flowing, guys. So if you're with us, drop us a hello in the comments. Let us know you're out there. And Mash, it's been a long day for West Indies fans, literally, hasn't it?
Boy, I got up at 5 o'clock again. I did it to myself again. I said, you know what? I got to do it. I got to rally. I can't give up on them now. All I asked for after the first ODI was, I said, please, I beg you lot, make some improvement. So let's try and deal with it from that sense. First ODI, they made 122. This ODI, they made 148. Is that an improvement?
Well, technically it is, but when you think about the context of the innings, it was basically a heist from Rovman Powell at the end, basically swinging away to get them to that scores.
Because I think at one point we were 71 for 7 and then 88 for 8.
Yeah.
So actually getting up to
148,
60 from the last 2 wickets to get us up to 148, and actually yet again Alzari Joseph and Akil, in fairness, batted better than the top order. I saw more intent and better cricket shots from them, and an ability to rotate the strike than I could see with the top order. So in fairness, it was a shambolic performance, because 88 for 8 is shambolic, but we managed to put together a partnership at the end. So you got to call it some level of improvement with the bat. But 148 was never going to be enough. 250 wouldn't have been enough. And Bangladesh obviously made the 149 they needed in 33 I can't even remember, like 33.4 overs or something like that.
So let's get into it, I guess. Yeah. So West Indies bat first. Otley comes in for Shamar Holder. Right move, Mash?
So Static was online, and he said no. Or for those who don't know who Static is, that's Kartikeya. He messaged the us on Twitter and was like, wrong move. Chamar should have played again. I think it was harsh on Chamar. Obviously, in the first ODI, what was it? Three overs for like 26 runs or something. Yeah. But if you get bowled out for 122, I understand why you would bolster the batting. And if you've got 3 all-rounders in Powell, Mayers and Reefer, none of whom bowled in the first ODI, I get why you'd bolster the batting and ask them to pick up the bowling in terms of medium pace bowling. So it made sense. And Otley was the second highest scorer with 24. So arguably, in the context of the innings, he did his job. He's not getting dropped for the next test for the next ODI. That's for certain. But I guess bigger than whether they should have dropped Chamar is, what do they do now for the third ODI? Like, you both the batting and make 20 more runs. Now, do you bring back Chamar or let Keon play and take out a batsman? It's much of a muchness. It's much of a muchness right now. But yeah, so like we're saying, the positives, Rovman got 41 in the first ODI. Carl Mayer's got 40. So if we're calling that a positive, Rovman got 41. Rovman has looked, probably across the 2 ODIs, he's looked the most assured West Indian batsman in terms of being able to attack against the Bangladeshi bowlers. So that's good from Rovman. And you and I were chatting with Asif before this about, it's quite interesting that of the players who are playing, Rovman is probably the most experienced out of them at the international level. So it just goes to show that it can't be a coincidence that the most experienced batsman at the international level is the one that has been able to adapt best out of the West Indian batsmen. Even if he's coming at 7 or 8, it doesn't matter. He's had international experience. So I think when people are being critical of this West Indian side, I urge caution. And I say, try not to be hypercritical, because again, None of them have played in Bangladesh before, in terms of, or very few of them have played in Bangladesh before. It doesn't matter how old they are, because if your experience is domestic cricket in the Caribbean only, that means nothing in the international scene. Seeing spin in Bangladesh conditions is going to be a head loss for all of them, because they don't have the capabilities to play it. And they had about 4 days preparation to get ready for this. So all in all, they've done what I expected them to do, which is struggle massively. What about you, Santoki?
Yeah, I think when you think 2018, when we took a full, obviously the ODIs, we lost 2-1, but it was still tough for the batsmen there. And the tests, we lost 2-0 in 2018. It's always going to be a tough tour. But as you said, when you add in the conditions of lack of match preparation, I mean, they didn't even play a warm-up. They just did a one innings kind of warm-up plan. They didn't play like against a Bangladeshi select 11 like you usually would. They didn't have time to acclimatize. When you add that into the fact that a lot of them are coming into the international scene for the first time, sorry, it's just the ingredients were just there for a failure.
Yeah, but that's not to take away from Bangladesh. I always say in these situations that you still have to do your job. And on both occasions, Bangladesh have done their job. Both wins have been very, very comfortable. The West Indian bowling has been disciplined, but the wins have still been comfortable. So the Bangladesh have done their job. I think I tweeted at some point when we were batting saying that Bangladesh can't gain anything out of this. Well, they can get the 30 points. But what I meant by that wasn't to demean Bangladesh in any shape or form. And tell me if I'm being harsh here, Santoki, but I don't, because of the lack of international experience that this team has, I don't think this is any different to Bangladesh playing Hong Kong or Nepal. I'm not, and that's not to demean Hong Kong or Nepal, but what I mean is the side we've got is it's an associate side. I don't think it's harsh to say that. When you average out the talent across the piece, this is it's got the West Indian name, but in terms of ability and context, this is an associate side.
Yeah, definitely.
So in the same way how I'd expect Bangladesh to deal with an associate side is how they've dealt with us. So,
and I think Bangladesh would obviously have like a more competitive match or series, I guess, as preparation for future ODI series, and just in general, it's their return to cricket. But it is what it is. They've faced the opposition they've come against. I guess as a reintroduction to cricket after over 300 days, it was an easy route for them to get players settled into their groove. But yeah, I actually think in this second ODI, West Indies had more of a clearer game plan. Obviously their target was to bat out the 50 overs. I think if you saw De Silva, Mohammed, Otley, they spent time at the crease, tried to play it out. So I think the target was to try and bat 50 overs in the first ODI, they went after 32 overs or something. So I think there was a clear game plan, but that was all theory and execution. As you said, just the capabilities weren't there for a lot of players and they struggled against the Bangladeshi bowlers, as a lot of world-class batsmen would do. So you can't really berate them too much. I mean, as fans, we're always going to be disappointed with a loss, but in the context of the series and the expectations of the players, you have to be realistic. So I wouldn't even say it's a disappointment. It's kind of just it's on par with what you'd expect to happen. I mean, if West Indies had posted more than 200 in any of these ODIs, you'd say that was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, exactly, 100%. What I would add further to what you just said there is that there were 2 dismissals, possibly 3, where I thought we contributed to it, and it was nothing to do with Bangladesh's bowling. So Josh's dismissal was weak, but I'm excusing him because he's young and he's still learning the game. So I effectively I can let him off on that one. But Andre McCarthy's dismissal was outrageous. I don't know if you've had a chance to see.
By Shakib.
Yeah, but Shakib just bowled an arm ball which went straight on. It wasn't any. Listen, I could have dealt with that. It wasn't. There were no minefields in Shakib's delivery. But Andre had only faced 6 balls, and he thought, "Yeah, this is my time now. I'm gonna slog Shakib out the park." The score was 39 for 3, and after 6 balls, his eyes not even in, he decides he's going down the wicket. slog shag him. But what made it worse is that's how he got out in the first ODI.
Yeah, that's the thing
as well. And this is where I will accept people being critical of these players. That is unacceptable. You can't get out the exact same way to someone like Shakib. Respect the bowler. Like, respect him. What are you playing at? He can't play in the next ODI. He's Jamaican, but I'm dropping him. He can't play. He can't play the next. He can't play in the next ODI. He's got to be dropped for that.
I think you made a good point. When a lot of people see the ages of these players like Bonner and McCarthy, they're assuming because of their age they should be able to adapt slightly easier because they've been used to it. But if you've been playing 12 years of just regional cricket, basically, it doesn't make you prepared for this kind of tour, the onslaught that you're about to face, really.
Yeah, he must have got head loss. Or complete brain fade where do you know what, he needs to explain himself because I don't know what he was doing. Even Otley, I can't who Otley had got dropped. I think someone put him down. It was off Mahmood, but I can't remember who put him down. But he had decided Otley was playing really expansive, and I was watching him going, rein it in. But all of that stuff again comes with experience, which they don't have. But obviously that 24 got him a T10 contract, so it's all good. It's positive for him. But one thing that did blight us, and seems to, we mentioned it when we had Tawhid on for the Rum Shot after the first one. Yeah. Even today, you're right that there was a game plan about the 50 overs, but they still couldn't rotate strike.
No, they couldn't.
It was painfully, like, Josh was 5 off 22 until Otley hit a couple of, was it 1-6 or 2? I can't remember. He was going, he couldn't really. I don't understand why these batsmen, and this is a West Indian thing, do not know how to rotate strike. I don't understand. And it's the only people I see able to do it regularly are like the Pollards. Our super experienced players that have played all around the world seem to be the only ones who know how to regularly rotate the strike. This just West Indian thing are just getting, it's got to be 0. It's got to be 0 or 4 or 0 or 6, or we can't even run a 2. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
you can't develop like that. Sorry, there's some people in the chat, so I better welcome to all, by the way. Let's bring some in. So Chris says Bonner at 7.
Yeah, I was like, because Bonner for me, where does he bat for Jamaica? 3 or 4? He doesn't seem like 7's a finisher. You come in at 7 to blast 6s. Bonner's never going to be that guy, but you're putting him under pressure to be that guy essentially when you're placing him at 7. So for me, that was a complete mismanagement of Bonner. We discussed on the first Rum Shot, no second spinner, baffling. Michelle, you've alluded to the only way this would make sense is if Parmore, Warwican, and Cornwall all play in the first test against Bangladesh. Otherwise, there's not really any rationale or logic as to why they didn't use a second frontline spinner in this ODI series. Bearing in mind, they saw the effects of spin in the first ODI, and they still went with Mohammed as being the part-time spinner that could back up Akil Hussain.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, the more I wonder if they're gonna, like as you say, if you don't draft a spinner across, all 3 spinners must be playing in the test. And the more I think about it, are they going to ask Rakeem Cornwall to bat up the order? It's risky, but if you do that and you tell Rakeem to bat, say you tell Josh to bat 6, and Rakeem to bat 7 or 8, does that work? Yeah, you tell Rakeem to bat 7, then it allows you to play the other 2 spinners plus Roach and Gabriel. But anyhow it gets to that first test, and I see one of the spinners just sitting on the field as a 12th man, I'm going to return and say, why on earth wasn't a spinner playing in the ODI? It's not like these ODIs don't count for anything. It's so, there's points at stake. So what is... who knows? I would love to know their thinking. The next press conference we have, I'm jumping in it. If it's with Phil, I'm going to ask him direct and just say, why didn't you do it? And see if I can get an answer, because it doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Where are we? Clive.
How does the West Indies made an A-team system work for their players to keep them better prepared for international cricket? That's a big one, Mash.
So that's interesting, Clive, because what you need to do first and foremost is go and look at how many A-team tours West Indies have played So in the last 3 years, unless I am 4 years, unless I am mistaken, and I'm willing for somebody to correct me, in the last 4 years, the only time West Indies have played A-team cricket, an A-team went to England in 2000 and I
18.
believe, was it 18 or 17?
Yeah.
It was one of those years.
Yeah, it was 18 because I was there. I was at the Oval.
Right. Okay. Yeah, you went, didn't you? So the A-team went, and that A-team had Rakeem Cornwall in. I think
Blackwood.
Shamar Brooks, I think Brooks was in that side. Was Blackwood in that side?
Yeah, Blackwood was.
Shamar Holder might even have been in that side as well.
Yeah.
So they all went to England on an A-team tour. That was 18. In 2019, India came to West Indies to play an A-team ODI list day and 4-day series. Again, Rakeem was in that A-team. Chamar Holder was in that A-team. Sunil Ambrish was in that A-team. And then obviously when we went to New Zealand, we put together some random A-team of basically reserves and some of the ODI players like Pooran, who we obviously want to fast track into the test team. Now, here's my thing. We do not have the finances, I believe, to do what we need to do. Or we need to find a way to get the finances, because the only way these players can get to international level and play better is with regular A-team experience.
Yeah.
It's not going to be through domestic cricket. That's not going to help them. And even if somebody says to me, but look at Jermaine Blackwood, he led the run charts in the last domestic season, and he was the best batsman in England. He was the best batsman in New Zealand. But what's quite interesting about that is Jermaine had already played Test cricket. This wasn't a brand new batsman coming into Test cricket who dominated the run charts in the Caribbean and come out of nowhere. When Jermaine got dropped from the West Indies team, he was already averaging 31. So all that has happened is he's gone back to domestic cricket, reminded everyone, listen, I've played at the top level. I'm better than you lot. Top the run charts, come back and told the Test batsmen, I'm also better than you lot as well. You lot need to get dropped before the next time I ever get dropped from the West Indies team. And once you take Jermaine Blackwood out, guess who's underneath him? Devon Smith.
Mad. Yeah, no, so I was just going to say, yeah, like going back to what you were saying, Mash, like with an A-team tour, for example, that match against Surrey A, they were facing off against Morne Morkel the same year Morkel destroyed Australia in South Africa. And I think Tom Curran as well was bowling. So you're facing like world-class bowlers, and that preparation is going to be priceless. And I think on that A-team tour, you had like John Campbell open for West Indies.
Yeah,
and then not long after he made the West Indies side, 6 months later, he was in the West Indies side. Shamar Brooks captained, as you said. Raymond Reifer played with Mario Shepherd. So that's all priceless experience. But as you said, it comes with the finances. Can they afford to continually have 18 tours running concurrently, which is what you need to kind of bridge the gap? Because as we've seen with this ODI squad, it's very hard to bridge the gap directly from domestic cricket straight into international. You need something in the middle, and that's what A-team tours provide. And if you look at like India, they've had frequent A-team tours, and that's prepared their players for the big stages on international cricket. So without that, there's always going to be a disparity with sides. So unless there's a radical overhaul in terms of finances and the resources are provided for West Indies to have A-teams touring, you're always going to have this kind of gap in cricket.
And then I guess what's quite interesting is what does this say then about, do you know what? No, let me differentiate, because I think the ODI side is different to the Test side in terms of ability. So I think it's disparaging to try and be like, well, this is why we can't drop our players. Because actually, when you look at our ODI side, Shai Hope, for all the criticism of him re-red ball cricket, he was in the ODI team of the year, and it's like this guy averages 50, which, so you know what, we actually have some good ODI players. Hope's averages over 50. Evan Lewis, when he can play and is committed, is an explosive opener. Pollard is Pollard. Pooran is going to be one of the most exciting players in the next 3 to 4 years in world cricket. Hetmeyer, when he can get his head in the game, can do whatever he wants to be. So we're not doubting that we haven't got Sheldon Cottrell is one of the best new ball bowlers in the world. So we're not doubting Jason Holder, obviously. So we're not doubting that we haven't got players who can come and make an impact. Fabian Allen could be one of the best finishers in the world. So the ODI squad is stacked.
Yeah.
And they have plenty of experience around the world in all their various different franchise tournaments, etc. What the worry is, what this tour to Bangladesh shows is, we don't have any strength in depth, really and truly.
Yeah.
So we have to stick with the current set of players. Unfortunately, when we're rotating, maybe one out at a time. We're not going to be rotating 2 or 3 out.
Mm.
So,
Agreed. It's also fine margins, because I think even this side, if you had Hayden Walsh Jr. and Romario Shepherd as a sort of finisher guy, it could have made small marginal gains in that as well. So as well, the team's been unfortunate to lose those 2 big players who definitely would have been in the starting 11 going into the series.
True. Actually, very good point. And Romario Shepherd coming off what did he hit in New Zealand?
93.
No, man. Who?
Romario Shepherd, didn't he hit 93?
Double century or something, or in the warm up game, man.
Yeah, it was 93, wasn't it?
Nah, man, he hit a century, didn't he?
Did he hit a century?
I swear he hit a century.
I might have. You know what? I can't even remember. It felt so long ago. So much has happened. But I was going to say, like, imagine the first test when there was pressure on the Bangladeshi batsmen initially. If you had Walsh Jr. and Hussain bowling end to end, it would have created a lot more pressure on the team, and then you could have seen a difference in performances. So that was a big loss, I think.
Yeah. And like I say, I'd love them to explain why they didn't replace Walsh Jr. with someone from the test. Nutty Atty says, I believe that our test squad in Bangladesh and even our West Indies emerging team would have fared better in the ODI. You know, what we were saying with Asif in the call before this, that the one disappointment is we've a lot of these players are 30 plus. I would have liked to have seen a few more talented youngsters in this squad. I think we've missed a trick here. For all I know, other players were approached and refused to travel, though. So who knows? But I would have liked to see a few more talented youngsters get a slot. And if people are saying to me like who, I'll call a couple of names. So like Keegan Simmons in Trinidad, for example, Josh Bishop in Barbados. Who else was what's his face? The Bayesian batsman, Greaves, Justin Greaves in from Barbados. So these are all players who are playing in the emerging team. They could have called Ashmead Ned. They could have said, come young Ashmead, or Kevin Sinclair. Come, one of you two. Do you see what I mean?
I was surprised they didn't go for Hemraj, just because he's got experience of ODIs in Bangladesh and he can spin, and that as well is very bizarre that he wasn't asked.
So, but caution, we don't know if they were asked. So
Hemraj wasn't asked. Remember, it came in the media.
Oh yeah, you told me. Yeah. True.
He came out in the media saying that he wasn't asked and stuff, which I'd assumed he had been asked, but which is baffling as well in that regard.
What about this, Santoki? So Super 50 starts on the 7th of Feb or 9th of Feb to be confirmed. Could this team win Super 50?
Not with Trinidad in this, not if they play Trinidad. You know what? I actually think, if you think about it, I think Trinidad, maybe Jamaica, definitely Barbados. Trinidad, Barbados, and Jamaica would beat this ODI side. It's my personal view.
Not Guyana. Yeah, Guyana might lose still.
Guyana would win a 4-day. We'd win a 4-day against this side, but not ODI.
This is a good point here from Tawhid, because I know Bishop was talking quite a bit on screen. So, you take this one, Santoki. We go back full circle? Should these players have toured Bangladesh? Because they're all on their way. Some of them are in I think they're in Abu Dhabi right now, or Dubai, or wherever that T10 is. Because I see Chris Gell stunting on his Instagram. DJ Bravo's out there right now. So if you're prepared to travel to Dubai for a T10 tournament, which admittedly only lasts 7 days, could you not have gone to Bangladesh? COVID is COVID.
Yeah, COVID's COVID. Again, it's like we said though. What? Because Jason Holder said he had concerns, and he's publicly said that. So he's obviously he's not going to fabricate that. There must have been concerns for you to publicly come out and say there were concerns. Pooran obviously said as well there were issues. What were these issues is basically what we need to know. and how do they compare to, say, the bubble presented to players in the IPL or in England? And then we just go from there, because I think, obviously, as you said, COVID's COVID. I don't think, like, you can't, as Tahid said, Ian Bishop was indirectly saying it, because you can't tell players where they should and shouldn't go during a pandemic and stuff. It's up to them to kind of look after their own health and do what's best for them. But then, as you said, why have they chosen certain countries ahead of Bangladesh? Is it purely down to the prestige of the tour, Bangladesh not being seen as worth it? Obviously, the T10 is going to be lucrative for little cricket. Or were there genuine health concerns? And they were genuinely afraid to go to Bangladesh because of these risks. We'll never know, I don't think. I don't think it will ever come out, to be fair.
When lots of the players were asked about it in the press conferences, so Craig Brathwaite was asked, Sunil Ambridge was asked, and both of them dead batted it. Both of them basically were like, listen, players have to make their own decisions. But then Craig said, players make their own decisions. I'm not here to comment on that. And then he was like, but me, I want to play cricket, which I thought was quite interesting. But I respect Craig for that, because Craig could easily have said, no, I'm not going. I'm under pressure. My form is atrocious. But I think he's looked at it as, I need to find some form. So any cricket will do for me right about now. Maybe I can get a 50 or 100 against Bangladesh and get myself back into some form in international cricket. So I respect Craig for that, but that doesn't mean I don't respect the players who didn't go. Look at the year that we've got coming up. Straight after Bangladesh, so that T10 thing. So this is their year coming up for all the players who will play for West Indies. Super 50, Sri Lanka series, a bit of IPL for those who've got the contract, Australia series, South Africa series, Pakistan series, CPL, World Cup. So there is literally, for some of those players, there ain't a break in that, you know.
And I think if you saw today, Ed Smith, the England selector, was saying how basically touring in the pandemic has basically ripped up the rule book in terms of you're chopping and changing your sides pretty much for every tour and just going by preserving players' mental health. Whereas England are in a fortunate position, they can drop Joss Butler and have a Johnny Bairstow come in. They can drop an Anderson and have an Archer in. So the need is there to chop and change your squad, because mentally no human in the world is going to be able to go through continual bubbles for like 6 months onwards. It's just not possible. It's just unfortunate that due to resources and kind of where West Indies are at, we just don't have the depth to chop and change. So this ODI side and Test side is what we would have when we chop and change, but it's just not good enough to compete. Whereas in England and India, Australia, even South Africa, they could have a second team that has been chopped and changed and still be able to compete. So it's just the disparity in world cricket means that we can't afford to make wholesale changes to the side and expect to compete. But with the year coming up, we will have to make wholesale changes. So there's going to be bad results in there either way.
Well, check this. Do you remember? In the England series when I said, bring back Shandapur, bring Purad in, and bring Pollard into the Test squad? Now tell me if you think that's actually. Do you now think that's okay? The Shandapur one I'll allow. So the Shandapur one I'll accept is a bit of a joke because he's old now. But actually, if the Test team doesn't do well versus Bangladesh, I can see a lot of people going, you know what, just bring Purad in now. It's long. Don't ask him to play no first-class cricket. Just bring the man in. Because there is an argument to say, and I was thinking it today during the defeat. I was thinking, are our West Indian players who play franchise cricket that better for them and their development than doing this? Do you see what I mean? Like, as much as people want to criticize it, and as much as people are going, oh, mercenaries, blah blah, franchise cricket, dedicate yourself to the West Indies, there's a reason Pollard's good. Do you see what I mean? Pollard's so good that Mumbai let him captain Mumbai. Do you see what I mean?
And if you look at the India Australia series, the deciding test, biggest test in both sides' recent history, Washington Sundar came in. He hadn't played a first-class game since 2017. He'd made his name in the IPL and franchise cricket, but he just had that quality, whereas the Indian selectors trusted to. He came in as a net bowler, eventually made the first 11, and they backed his quality, and it kind of came out there. So I think a similar thing can be applied to Pooran at this point, especially when you think the sheer volume of games we have, especially tests coming up in the year, means you can essentially afford to use. I mean, the Bangladesh tests. If Pooran was willing to go, he would have made the 11 because you're essentially using the Bangladesh tests as almost like an A game trial game to build for the rest of the year because so many players have opted out. So it's a weird one this year. I think definitely there's no better year to use our resources if a Pollard or Pooran are willing to play, put them in there because this is never going to happen again where we have to make changes and we've got so many tests coming up.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really. By the time Pakistan turn up in August, just before CPL or July.
Listen, if Pakistan are playing in Ghana, yeah. If Chanderpool's on the sidelines, my man might just fully come out, you know.
Do you know what? All jokes aside, and we've said it on the pods before, the biggest indictment of West Indian batting is that we haven't had a batsman average over 40 since Gale, Sarwan, and Shiv, and that. I'm not saying that they're world beaters, but what I am saying is that was the last generation of batsmen that we had, and they all debuted. Well, Shiv debuted mid-90s, but Gale and Sarwan debuted right at the beginning of 2000s, I think. If that 21 years since they debuted, for us to find when we still haven't found another batsman who we can legitimately say, okay, Shea Hope in white ball, you can legitimately argue. You can consider, even with his like 1970s ODI strike rate, you can consider him a world-class batsman. And Pollard in T20s, but in red ball cricket and apart from ODI cricket, we don't have world-class batsmen. And so,
and what's telling is Shai Hope learnt his game in England because he went to school in England, secondary school. Pollard learnt his game in franchise cricket, mainly in India. So the two players that you've referenced didn't even develop their game domestically or learn it in the region. They had to go elsewhere to kind of pick up their skills.
It's mad.
Whereas obviously like a Chanderpaul and Sarwan, they exclusively learn it through batting in regional cricket.
But the one positive is that, and I'm actually looking forward to it. So super, for those of you who are UK based who are listening to this, Super 50 is going to be on BT Sport in February, and I do think that will be if you are genuinely invested in West Indies cricket, I think that is a tournament to watch this year because everybody who can still be selected for the West Indies is playing that tournament. So I think it'll be very interesting to see. And Bish, I think Bish made this comment on comms. When you are playing with the international players on a regular basis, your standards have to raise.
Yeah,
and I think that will have a massive impact in this year's Super 50 for certain players. To the Trinidad and the Barbados side are powerhouse sides. That they're basically West Indies sides in the competition with a few players dotted around them. Even Ravi Rampal's come back to come. It's interesting actually because last thing I might say actually before we wrap this up, I think I need to check if Ravi's done then because of Brexit and all that foolishness.
Yeah, because Colpax no longer exists, so you'd have to be signed as an overseas player. So most Colpack players aren't coming back to English county cricket. So I would argue, yeah, like you said, I think Ravi's done with Derbyshire. But I'd be interested to see what he does afterwards. Going forward, does he just because he could still probably play franchise cricket, T20 cricket. He's that type of bowler. So I'd be interested to see what his next move is.
Because that's where he was excelling for Derbyshire in T20. So Ravi's 36 years old. I expect him next year or this year, to get a contract for CPL. I'd expect like that to pick him up if he's playing in Caribbean. And arguably, if he's fit and he's still taking wickets, what's to say he can't get in the T20 squad?
Yeah, potentially.
You can't rule it out. If Bravo can get in there at 38 and Gale's getting in there at 42.
Yeah, and Rampal, don't forget, obviously the World Cup's going to be in India. he's played in IPL. He's had success in India in 2012. Was it? Was it in India? Yeah. So I mean, it's unlikely at this point, but there's an outside chance.
Indeed. So should we call it?
Yeah, I think we basically sound like a broken record, but this second ODI mirrored the first ODI in so many ways. So I guess all we can talk about, Mash, to wrap it up is what would you like to see? I'm going to say the third ODI is done. We've already lost it. Like I can't see anything.
But you're not telling them, guys. It's true. It's finished.
The third ODI is done. So Mash, what would you like? Like you're getting up at 5 a.m. Monday morning, the worst day of the week to get up early for. It's going to be dark. It's cold in England. It's raining. What one thing do you want to see that would brighten up your day?
I think if we win the toss, we should ask Bangladesh to bat. No matter what the conditions are saying, I think we should ask Bangladesh to bat. 1, it makes the game go longer. 2, it gives our bowlers a full run out. So I think no matter what the situation, we ask them to bat. And then in reply, the problem with asking Bangladesh to bat is I think they'll skittle us out for like 80 runs in response. But I want to see us bowl 50 overs. And in terms of batting, I will accept any performance where we get over 180 runs. Do I think they'll do that? That's a bit iffy. So I'll accept either them getting over 180 runs or someone hitting a 50 plus.
Yeah.
That's about all I think we can aim for in this situation. I mean, ultimately, incremental improvement. 122, 148. So at the very least, they need to get over one. they need to get over 150. Oh, hold on. Just this last one. I think we should end here. I'm not panicking. I think we're gonna end up in the qualifiers. No. Let me take that back. If the West Indies full set of players return through the whole process of World Cup qualifying, I'm not panicking, because you have to remember that our captain is Kyron Pollard. And while some people might be like, so listen, that guy doesn't suffer fools. He demands a winning mentality and a winning culture. So I'm actually.
Didn't we beat Sri Lanka 3-0 in ODIs in Sri Lanka? Was it ODIs we beat them?
In T20s, lost in the ODIs.
Yeah.
We lost 2 of them. We lost
that's
one.
Me done. No, we're going to be playing. We're going to be playing Papua New Guinea in the finals of the World Cup qualifiers.
Whatever happens, we're going to the World Cup, but it ain't going to be easy.
Yeah, I think we're at that. West Indies are realistically at that stage where we're generally not good enough for most ODI sides, barring a few home ODI series where we can use conditions to our advantage. But even then, it's a struggle. So we're generally not good enough for most ODI sides, but we're a lot better than the associate sides. So we're basically in that gap where if we were in a qualification tournament, I'd expect us to finish in the top 2 and qualify for the World Cup. But then at the same time, I'd expect us to struggle in actual World Cup.
Now we're going to win the World Cup in 2023. We're taking it all. We're taking T20 World Cup this year, T20 World Cup next year, and World Cup. We're taking everything. You lot can keep your tests. We're just taking everything in white ball cricket.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for everyone who's joined in. We'll be back on Monday to wrap up the ODI series and I guess talk a bit about the red ball cricket, which is coming up, which we have more reason to be optimistic about. So, thanks everyone for joining us. Hope you all have a good weekend. Stay safe, and we'll catch you on Monday, guys. Peace.